Shri Guru Shri Utapati Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Radhanatham Jitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Sarvadutam Vijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanuste Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I beg for the blessings of the assembled devotees. There are many devotees here, senior devotees who I don't know your names, and maybe I haven't seen you yet, so I apologize, but I ask for your blessings. Shri Gaura Nitai. Ask for the blessings of all the devotees present, that I may say something for the pleasure of Gaura Nitai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in line with Guru Parampara, and for the benefit of all of the devotees assembled. Hare Krishna. So, although I'm very unqualified to speak, I'm just trying my best to attempt to serve the request of some of the devotees who asked me to speak something. So, on this most holy occasion of Gaura Purnima, by the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, we have the opportunity to absorb our minds in the name, qualities, form, and pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. This is bhakti, that we use our senses, our eyes, our ears to hear, our eyes to see, and especially our mind to absorb ourselves in Krishna, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have so many things going on in our minds, right? Mind gets charged up, so many impressions, just today, just this one day, so many things we saw, so many things we've heard, and the mind gets very charged, and so many things are going on in the mind. But we can just try together to make this very simple reversal. So many concerns and responsibilities and things that we have going on, and it all revolves around us. But if we can just instead think about making the Lord happy, think about making Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happy, if we can make that a little adjustment, even just tonight, just thinking everything we do is for the pleasure, we cooperate with each other, we serving the Lord, or the Abhishek is there, that may the Lord be happy with all of this. That's it's not easy to do, but it's very simple, isn't it? Just God's pleasure. Let me just be concerned with God's pleasure. So we'll try that together. And we'll see that if we could just make that switch and put God in the center, if God is happy with my consciousness, my activities, how I'm associating, if God is happy with that, we'll see that a deep satisfaction will come into our hearts. It doesn't mean that everything in our life is going to go smooth after that. Still, there will be many ups and downs, but we'll still feel very blessed. There's a difference between a happy life and a blessed life. Happy life, we think if all my desires get fulfilled, I'll be more and more happy. But blessed life, that doesn't happen. It may happen sometimes, it doesn't happen other times. But we feel the presence of the Lord, we feel blessed, we feel that I'm surrounded by auspiciousness no matter what happens in my life. So that's the goal. A nice example of this is Srivas Thakur. Now, you can't imagine a worse pain in this world than a parent losing a child. I work in a hospital, so I see this often. A mother or father losing a daughter or son. It's one of the deepest pains in this material world. We see this example of Srivas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya was dancing in his home one evening, and Srivas Thakur, he heard some crying coming from another room. And he went into the room and he saw his family was there, his wife, and they were crying because Srivas Thakur's son had just passed away. And amazing, the reaction, Srivas Thakur. This is his instinctive reaction. As soon as this happens, he asks everybody there, please, just make your cries very gentle, soften your cries, so we don't disturb the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the next room. We don't want to disturb him. He's very happy dancing. Just imagine that. I mean, of course he was deeply saddened. His son had just passed away. But immediately he thought of the Lord. Let us not disturb the Lord in his chanting. So he went back to the kirtan, and everyone just tried to control their emotion. And after some time, Lord Chaitanya, of course, knew. He said, what has happened in this house? He was feeling something. And a devotee told him, Srivas Thakur's son actually had just passed away. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, when? When was this? He said, almost 3 hours ago. He said, why did nobody tell me? And he said, because Srivas Thakur didn't want to disturb your absorption in the holy name. What was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reaction when he heard that? He wept. He cried. Just imagine, what can make God cry? To make God cry. That kind of devotion made Lord Chaitanya cry. And so, when Lord Chaitanya later told Srivas Thakur, he told him that, you've conquered me with your devotion. And from this day forward, I will be your son eternally. I can never leave your association. So how is Srivas Thakur able to think in this way or react in this way? It's this very simple thing that I was mentioning. His happiness is Lord Chaitanya's happiness. His sadness is Lord Chaitanya's sadness. Because he was so connected in that way, and this terrible calamity came in his life, but he thought immediately still thinking of the Lord's happiness. So, this is an incredible example. It's very, it's beyond all of us, but we can still catch the principle that's there. And the principle is very simple. Even though it's not easy, it's very simple. It's that we start to think for God's pleasure and not my own. And then we'll find this blessed experience throughout all our life, no matter what happens to us. We'll be surrounded by auspiciousness. In the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he starts off by saying, I am now very, very old. How old was Krishnadas Kaviraj when he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita? Anybody know? He said he was in his 90s. He said, I can't see anymore. And I can't hear. I can't hear. I can't see anymore. I can't hear anymore. And he said, my hands are shaking. I'm so old. He said, I am disturbed by invalidity. But somehow, this instruction, this request has come upon me to write what I've heard from Raghunath Das Goswami. And then he says, and therefore, before he starts Chaitanya Charitamrita writing, he says, I therefore fall at the feet of all, this is very nice, all kinds of devotees, the most senior devotees and also the brand new neophyte. I fall at your feet and worship you, that you bless me, that I could properly glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we learn from the devotees of Lord Chaitanya what is real, what is the heart of bhakti, and this deep humility of Krishnadas Kaviraj. After saying that, right, he's saying how old he is, he's becoming blind, he can't hear anymore, he's shaking. He said, I may die at any moment. He's in his late 90s. And then he writes the most incredible, voluminous, poetic, deep, philosophical, spiritual masterpiece that you can even ever imagine. That's what follows after this. Imagine on palm leaves with his hand shaking. He's writing on palm leaves. Palm leaves, you can't make a mistake. You make a mistake, you have to throw out the palm leaf start. There's no erasing, typing on the computer. And so on palm leaves, he's writing with shaking hands. Very old man. He said, I may die at any moment. He writes Chaitanya Charitamrita, the most incredible spiritual masterpiece, replete with all the different teachings of Lord Chaitanya, all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, their names, their activities, the philosophy is there, the pastimes, everything is there. He also said his memory was gone, but apparently when we become very weak and humbled, we can become used by the Lord, empowered. Prabhupada would sometimes say also, this Krishna book, read from Krishna book, and Prabhupada would enjoy so much hearing it. He said, well, how is it that I can enjoy my own book? You might wonder, an author, they write a book, they never want to see it again, because you took so much time to write it and you don't care anymore. But Prabhupada said, I can go on hearing Krishna book. I wrote, but I can go on hearing again and again. How is that possible? He said, because I did not write. Krishna wrote. Krishna wrote, therefore I can relish. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, after speaking in that way, he recites a beautiful verse that I wanted to read, which is kind of a benediction to all of us. And it gives us a little idea of what Lord Chaitanya's reason was for coming. It says, may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever before given, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So Lord Chaitanya comes into this world. He has a few reasons. He has internal reasons and external reasons. We say internal and external, but everything is spiritual. So don't think external means something material. What it means is his internal reasons are his personal reasons for coming. And his external reasons are his reasons for coming for the sake of for others. So external means his reason for coming for the sake of others. So what was his personal reason in coming? Even though Krishna knows everything, he was mystified by Srimati Radharani. So he wanted to understand her glories. And he wanted to understand that the love that she feels in her heart, the love she's experiencing, and also the love that he wants to experience, the love that she's experiencing of him through her. It's a little tricky to figure out these three reasons, the internal reasons. He wants to taste her love, and he wants to taste his own love through her perspective. These are his three internal reasons for coming. So I'm going to pass by this one very fast, because I'm unqualified to speak anything of these higher things, these higher personal reasons of God for coming. So I'll focus more on the external reasons, which is the reasons why he came for all of us. So his reasons for others in coming. He came to reestablish the Yuga Dharma. Harinam Sankirtan. He came to establish this and ignite this. Kirtan is always going on. It's not some new thing. And many people do kirtan, but his kirtan is very specific. Just like even Shankaracharya followers in India, they're chanting kirtan also. But the kirtan that Lord Chaitanya came to give is called Prem Sankirtan. Sankirtan of pure love. Another external reason he came was to distribute spontaneous, pure love, pure devotional service. Rag Bhakti. He came to also give this to the world. So he had these desires. This is his reason for coming. But he was also drawn to come. Who was he drawn to come? Who drew him into coming? Advaitacharya Prabhu. Not just Advaitacharya Prabhu. You see, Srivas Thakur was also praying. Haridas Thakur was also in his cave chanting and praying. But especially Advaitacharya. It was the cry of Advaitacharya. Navadvip at that time, if you look just what was happening, it looked like it was flourishing. It was the center of education. So many learned scholars were there. Culture was there. The Vedic culture seemed to be in flux. And economically, it was very prosperous. So everybody would think everything is going very nice. But only the devotees really know what's going on. Because even though they were seeing all that as well, Advaitacharya's heart was broken. Because he's saying all of this is happening, but everybody is forgetting Krishna. They're becoming so focused on their scholarship and debating and all of these things, and they're losing the point of all of it. So Advaitacharya, this is not just for a few days he was doing this, not just for a few months before Lord Chaitanya came, but for years. He was worshipping his Shalagram Shila. He was offering little tulsi water and tulsi and a little Ganga water to his Shalagram. And he was crying for the Lord to descend, to save all of the people that were moving away from God. And he was doing this for years. Sometimes we wonder how does prayer work? You know, the question comes sometimes. So many people are praying. You could see prayer works. It can work, but there has to be a certain quality to the prayer. You just imagine the cry of Advaitacharya. Sometimes we pray for things. Krishna, please help me come back to you, but meanwhile we're holding on to things down here. And so there's contradictions in our heart, so the prayer it doesn't flow to the Lord hears everything, but it doesn't flow directly to him where he really responds, because we're mixed up a little bit. We're praying for love, and we're still holding on to so many attachments we have. A part of us is afraid to surrender and to let go. So even though our lips move, we hold back, we have contradictions inside, and therefore the prayer doesn't really flow perfectly and purely. But what if you have no contradiction inside? And when you pray sincerely and purely from the heart, that kind of prayer goes directly to the heart of the Lord, and he becomes responsive. So Advaitacharya, Srivas Thakur, Haridas Thakur, their prayer was pulling the Lord down because it was so pure and it was so much out of compassion for others. So he responds. He responded. Right? Just like there are many mothers here probably. So you know also your child has many different kinds of cries. Right? There's a cry that you hear and you don't take it so seriously because you know maybe he's just a little tired or she's just a little tired. That's what that cry is. You can recognize that cry. Right? Maybe the child is just a little bit moody. So you hear that cry that you know this is a moody cry, you don't pay so much attention. But there's a particular cry that if you hear some scream, some urgent scream from the child, then immediately the mother or father will go and react because of that cry. So the Lord also, he hears our prayer, our cry. And the cry is, just something coming, but we're not taking it so seriously, But when the cry is very sincere and genuine and pure, then Krishna responds. Just like a mother responds when the child's cry is very real, very sincere. Doesn't even think, just immediately appears. So this was Advaitacharya's cry, and therefore the Lord had to respond, reciprocate, to come and appear before the devotees. It's interesting, before Srila Prabhupada also came to the West, he also wanted Lord Chaitanya to appear in the Western world. So where did he go before his voyage on the Jaladuta? He went to a few places. The one place he went was the home of Advaitacharya, Shantipur. Anyone has been there? Shantipur. So Prabhupada was going, before his mission, he was going to the home of Devotee Acharya. Very significant now when we understand the connection. You know, he was sitting in the back of the temple there, Devotee Acharya's home. Now there's a beautiful temple. And he was sitting in the back just chanting japa, crying. The pujari told this story much later, that this one man was coming and he was crying in the back chanting japa. And one time Prabhupada approached this pujari and he said, "My spiritual master has given me an impossible mission. So I've come here to beg for the mercy of Advaita Acharya, and I beg for your mercy that you bless me that I can go and serve this mission." It's amazing because he says it's impossible, and then he says, "Okay, well now I'm going to do it." So just like Krishna does Kaviraj in the beginning, this is impossible that I can write this, and then it happens. So this is what it means to be empowered by the Lord. When we become deeply, deeply humbled, our heart opens and the Lord can control. The Lord uses us as an instrument. So, how did the Lord actually come? It's described, he first entered the mind. He transferred himself from the spiritual world to the mind of Jagannath Mishra. And then from the mind of Jagannath Mishra, he entered the heart of Sachi Devi. And then from the heart of Sachi Devi, he entered the womb of Sachi Devi. And so when the Lord entered her womb, she became so beautiful and effulgent. And she was trying to figure out what was happening because she didn't know if she was dreaming or not, but these different divine beings were coming and offering obeisances to her. And she was thinking, what's happening? And also Jagannath Mishra, when he was just walking outside, some people would just randomly come and give him gifts. And they were trying to understand, what is these strange things that are happening? So it became the 9th month of her pregnancy. And then came the 10th month. And then the 11th month. And then the 12th month. And they became a little scared, nervous. So Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, they went to Nilambar Chakravarti, the father of Sachi Devi. They went to him. He's a great devotee and a great astrologer. And they were very concerned. It's been past 12 months and this baby has not come yet. And they were scared. They had many other children that all passed away. And finally, just before this child who's to come, they had one boy, Vishwarup. And so now this is the next child. So they became very nervous. What's happening? So he did some astrology and he told them, from what I am seeing, your child is a supremely auspicious being. And this child is waiting for just the right moment to appear very soon. So this is interesting because what was that right moment he was waiting for? In India, this is considered very inauspicious, the lunar eclipse. Right? Even today, some parts of India, when the lunar eclipse comes, people will cover their windows so that no light from that lunar eclipse, everything gets contaminated if any light comes in. And even in Vrindavan, they sometimes close the temples on the lunar eclipse. So, but because it's such an inauspicious time in some ways, that everybody has to take shelter of God. So in Navadvip, at the lunar eclipse, everybody would go to the Ganga, and they would submerge themselves in the Ganga, and they would all just chant very loudly, Hari Hari, Hari Hari Hari, Hari Hari, Hari Hari. So Lord Chaitanya was waiting for this exact moment where everybody came to the Ganga, lunar eclipse, and they're all there, and they're all chanting the names of God, Hari. And just at that exact moment, then Gaura Hari appeared. Described, he appeared like a rising golden moon coming from the sea of the ocean of the womb of Mother Sachi. Appeared. So as soon as he appeared, all of the devotees, wherever they were in the world, they immediately felt some rush of joy in their hearts. And they were, why do I feel so blissful suddenly? Wherever they were, they felt immediately as soon as he appeared, they had this intuition, this experience. And Lord Chaitanya, he was just like Krishna, so beautiful, but he had the golden complexion. of Srimati Radharani. But we'll see that his pastimes, they parallel Krishna's pastimes in some way. So he was so beautiful. Everybody who saw this little baby. Lord Chaitanya was actually always beautiful. When he got older also, it's described that Prakashananda Saraswati, what changed his heart? He's a very staunch Mayavadi philosopher, very strong. But it's described that two things converted his heart to Krishna Bhakti. Two things about Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's humility and his beauty. So it's amazing. If we can just appreciate the Lord's beauty, Gaura here is so beautiful. If we can just look at them and appreciate the beauty, this will also bring bhakti, awaken bhakti in the heart. You don't even have to hear anything philosophy. You just appreciate the beauty. So Prakashananda Saraswati was transformed by seeing the beauty of Lord Chaitanya. So when he was old, when he was young, as a baby, imagine how beautiful. And everybody was coming and giving gifts to Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi. And they had first the name-giving ceremony. So again, Nilambar Chakravarti did the astrology and he gave name. He thought this child, of course he knew that this was Vishnu, Narayan himself, but he was keeping it a little secret. And he said, let's give him the name Vishrambar because he's maintaining the whole universe and he will nourish the whole universe with his presence through his life. So gave him a very big name, like the nourisher of the whole universe. So Mother Sachi, she's so simple. She just thought, oh, he was born under Neem tree, let's call him Nimai. One very big name, one very simple, small name. That was her simple love, pure. And Jagannath Mishra said, oh, he's so beautiful and his limbs, he's golden and he has these beautiful golden limbs, let's call him Gauranga. So many names were given to him like this. And then the grain ceremony. The grain ceremony, they put different objects down. Put some coins, put some gold, put some weapon, and they put Srimad Bhagavatam. And they put the child down and see where would the child crawl to first. Right? So they put little Nimai down, and Jagannath Mishra said, now quickly grasp whatever attracts you. And he immediately just crawled right over to the Srimad Bhagavatam and picked it up and embraced it. Everybody said, Haribo, he will be a Pandit, he will be a Pandit. My mother told me once that when she put me on the ground in the house for the first time, I also crawled to not a book, but a magazine. You know what that magazine was? Sports Illustrated. This is exposing myself. So my whole life I somehow become distracted from Krishna with sports. But he picks up Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and embraces. And everybody is so happy. He will be a great Pandit. Actually, Lord Chaitanya is the personification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just by looking at his life, observing very carefully how he's acting, what he's doing, what he's saying, we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Srila Prabhupada, in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the introduction? Sketch of the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Very interesting, he makes the introduction a sketch of the life of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya is personified Bhagavatam. So as Nimai grew a little older, then, as I was saying, his pastimes parallel Krishna's pastimes. So just like Krishna, Putan came, Putana. And she had evil intentions, but still, Krishna accepted this little service that she was giving, and he liberated her. So there's a parallel pastime in Lord Chaitanya's Leela when he was. Anyone know what it might be? It's the pastime of the two thieves. So these two thieves, they're seeing little Nimai in the marketplace, and he kind of wandered off a little bit from his father. And they saw, look at the jewels this little boy has. The earrings and the necklace, and let's kidnap him. And we'll take all those jewels, we'll take him to our hideout, we'll steal all the jewels, and then we'll leave. So these two thieves, they just had this idea. They'll just go and sweep him up, pretend like he's their kid. So they just walked by quickly and said, "Oh, our son, come." And they grabbed him, they put him on their shoulders, and they just started walking and walking and walking. And just to pacify him and keep him quiet, they kept feeding him sandesh. Just keep him another. And Nimai was just on the shoulders. He was bouncing up and down. He was very happy eating the sandesh. And they kept walking. They said, "Okay, now we'll take him to this hideout. And we'll take out all of his jewels." So they said, it's coming, it's just around this corner. And they came around the corner where they expected their hideout, but they realized, where are we? And they realized that actually this is the home of this little boy. And everyone saw Nimai and they became nervous, and by the power of Yoga Maya, they became illusioned, and they brought Nimai right back to his home. So they put him down and just ran away. And then Nimai just ran into the house and he jumped on the lap of Jagannath Mishra. And they were all so worried. Where have you been? We've been looking all over for you. And he said, I wandered a little bit off, and these two nice men, they picked me up and they brought me back home. And he said, which men? Where are they? And he said, they're right outside. And then Jagannath Mishra, he prepared this nice cloth and a turban made of silk. And he went outside to find these two men, but they had already run away. So Vrindavan Das Thakur says, anybody who hears this pastime with faith, they will very quickly attain the shelter under the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? Why this benediction for this simple story? Because their intentions were wrong. But still, Nimai accepted some service. What was the service? He went for a ride on their shoulders and was having fun, and he was getting sandesh. So he disregarded what their intention was, and just because they gave a little service, then they were greatly benefited. Jagannath Mishra wanted to give them gifts, so they received that blessing. So this is why, just by hearing this story with faith, this blessing comes upon us. Because our intentions also now is a little bit mixed sometimes. Of course, I'm speaking for myself. But my intentions are very mixed, and therefore I have to depend that hopefully the Lord can disregard that sometimes and still bless me with His mercy. So, as he got a little older, he went to school. But really, he just wanted to finish school and go to Ganga. Lord Nimai was spending 6 hours a day at the Ganga, playing. And all the men from the Ganga, they were coming to Jagannath Mishra's home, and they were complaining. He said, you think your child Nimai is some little angel? Let us tell you what he's doing every day. There is no more peace at the Ganga. There are some men sitting on the bank of the Ganga, and they're sitting in meditation, and Nimai comes from behind and kicks them and runs away. He says sometimes there are people chanting their Gayatri mantra in the water, and then Nimai, we don't know where he comes from, but suddenly he's swimming underwater and he jumps right in front of them and spits water right in their face. And sometimes you see that Nimai, people are offering things, they're offering things to their deities. And he will just come and take the food, the offering, and immediately just start eating it. And he stands before them and says, now your offering has become successful. Another person said, during Nimai, I saw that somebody was worshipping Shiva Lingam. And Nimai just suddenly appeared and he stole the Shiva Lingam and just ran away. These are his, Krishna, name for Krishna is Dushta Mohan. That the mischievousness captivates, enchants the mind. So this is what Nimai's pastime is also like this. So those are the men, they came to complain to Jagannath Mishra. The ladies also came to complain to Sachi Devi. They said, let us tell you what is happening with your son at the Ganga. He's walking up to young girls and saying, with very serious look and serious face, will you marry me? This is, can't fool around with women like this. Little girls. They were actually praying for nice husbands. And they were making offerings to have a nice husband. And Lord Chaitanya and little Nimai would come and he would take their offerings and say, give me your offerings. They said, no, we are praying for a nice husband. He said, if you don't give me your offerings, then I curse you. that you will have an old, ugly man with 10 children and 4 co-wives. And they were terrified because, he has some Shakti, he has some power, his words are very convincing. And so they became very afraid. Okay, take the offering, take the offering. So Jagannath Mishra and Sachimati are hearing all of these complaints about young Nimai. So Jagannath Mishra, he grabs a stick and he says, okay, I will go to the Ganga now and punish him. And he steps out of the home, and one of Nimai's friends sees that Jagannath Mishra is coming with a stick. And so he runs fast to tell Nimai, your father is coming to punish you. And Nimai just laughs and he says, and then he just runs away. He goes in a different direction. And he kind of finds a path where his father is walking a different path, and they don't run into each other. And then he gets his books, his school books, and he's completely dry now, and he puts ink all over his hands to look like he's just coming from school. And then he goes home and he says, Mother, I'm just coming from school, and I'm just dropping off my books and things, and now I will go to the Ganga. And she said, Nimai, but where are you coming from? He said, I'm coming from school. Look at my hands. I have so much ink. I've been working so hard. And she said, no, but we have heard that you were at the Ganga. He said, no, I'm not at the Ganga. I'm at school. And then Jagannath Mishra comes. Nimai, where were you? Look at my hands. I have ink all over my hands. I was doing schoolwork. He said, Nimai, I've heard so many complaints about you. Are you not afraid at all of offending Vishnu? Are you not afraid of offending all of these brahmanas? And little Nimai said, what? Who has said what? Who has said it? What are they saying? He said, they've told us all the things that you're doing. He said, this is all lies. Everything is lie. And now, just because they are lying about me, I will go to the Ganga now and I will really create some chaos. And he stormed out. So I mean, he had these mischievous pastimes where actually everybody loved, just like Krishna. But then Nimai at some point became a little more serious. 2 things made him more serious. First, his older brother, in the middle of the night, left home and took sannyas. So this broke the heart of Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. So then he realized, I have to behave a little bit now. Another thing that happened that made him more serious. Jagannath Mishra, after Vishwarup left and took sannyas, he started having dreams that Nimai too would also leave and take sannyas. And so he was crying out in his sleep. He was so scared. Sachi Mata was saying, no, don't worry, he's immersed in his studies, he's not going anywhere, but he couldn't hear anything. And so from that fear, he began to get sick, Jagannath Mishra. And then he got caught fever. And doctors came and said he just has short time to live. And he passed away. So Vishwarup was gone. Jagannath Mishra had passed away, and now Sachi Mata was all alone. And Nimai just assured her that now I just live for you. I will be with you. So, okay, just coming to an end here. I'm getting a little lost in all of these pastimes, but so Nimai, this is all culminating, where as he becomes more serious, he starts to receive the blessings of devotees like Srivas Thakur. They start blessing him because they're seeing he's becoming very intelligent and smart. And he's doing all this debating and all this logic and philosophy, but he has to become a devotee of Krishna. This is the perfection of life. So they start giving blessings. And then soon he goes to Gaya to perform the Shraddha rites for his departed father. And there he meets Ishwara Puri. And he goes to Ishwara Puri and he falls at his feet to take initiation. So he takes initiation from this very exalted devotee, Ishwara Puri. And he gives him the Maha Mantra. And it was from this moment, once he received the Maha Mantra, and the spiritual master told him that you are doing all this study, you are known as Nimai Pandit, but actually I call you fool. You are a fool. You just chant the holy name of Krishna. And he took that very seriously. And he started chanting. And then the transformation started to occur, where he started to, all the symptoms of ecstasy were coming in his body. And he went back to his spiritual master and said, what have you given me? what is this mantra you've given me? Every time I chant, I'm just crying. I'm getting nervous. What should I do? He said, and Ishwara Puri said, yes, that is the nature of the Maha Mantra. You have achieved this love of God. Now you go and you distribute it to everybody. So Lord Chaitanya, he didn't actually distribute until he got this instruction from his spiritual master to distribute. So at that time, he started his mission of igniting the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy name, to giving it to everybody. And I'll just end by reading the vision of a devotee. This is from some verses from Prabodhananda Saraswati. And it's just his vision of when Lord Chaitanya descended. This is what he was seeing. And when we hear this, we may think, this is not happening. This is talking, well, now the whole world is being flooded in love of God and everybody's floating on the waves of love and crying and sinking into this ocean. We think, is that really happening? But look where we are, Tawako, New Jersey. We're in the middle of nowhere and somehow we are celebrating Gaura Purnima. We're talking about the glories of Lord Chaitanya. We're in the middle of nowhere, Tawako, New Jersey. But somehow, this tidal wave that started in Navadvip, some drops have come in different places, and now more and more spread. So a devotee, but he sees the end result from the very beginning. So these are the prayers of Prabodhananda Saraswati. Now that Lord Gaura has descended to this world, the waves of the holy name of Lord Krishna are suddenly flooding this planet, and the hearts of the sinful conditioned souls, which were as hard as thunderbolts, have now become soft like butter. Everywhere, saintly men and women are laughing. The stone-like hearts of the materialists are melting, and the uneducated are eclipsing a host of learned atheist scholars. This is happening now that the most wonderful and glorious Sri Chaitanya has descended to this earth. So you see, he's seeing the end result immediately. As soon as Lord Chaitanya descended, he's seeing all of this happening. And now we have to make it actually happen. It's not that it just happens automatically. It happens through the devotees. So in our own way, we have to follow. To be a follower of Lord Chaitanya means to do exactly what he did. To taste the holy name and to distribute the holy name. Whatever that means for us in our small way. A few people we share. In this way, we're genuine followers of Lord Chaitanya, and we'll see the effects of this tidal wave come more and more. I'm sorry for going over. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai! Jai! Gaura Purnima.